Okay, welcome to this review of Dune 2. Note, I am not a professional reviewer. I mean, is anyone? But I do like movies, and I saw this one, and boy, is it something. Alright, so I'm not going to do any spoilers for a while, and you'll know when I'm doing spoilers, and you can just turn the video off at that point. So yeah, I loved it. Let's start with that. And so you can close the review now if you want. But Dune is something that I'm new to, generally, and I'm no expert by any means, but I did read the books after the first Denis Villeneuve movie came out, and I really enjoyed them. I say the books, I read Dune and Dune Messiah, which will be adapted. Denis' next movie will be Dune Messiah. And so I can approach this from a slight vantage point of I read the books, but I will say I loved the first Dune, and when I read the books after and rewatched it, I thought it was an achievement to be able to get all that stuff on the screen, and economically as well, like being able to know where to, get things to make sense, to cut some stuff, to condense some things, and still retain the spirit of the books. Some of you probably know how dense those books are and how they deal with a lot of inner monologue. They deal with a lot of, like, really heady issues about identity, about a messianic complex, about, what does it mean to be an outsider in a culture? And what does it mean to influence that culture? Maybe not in the best way. And Frank Herbert's book does a lot of this stuff in a really, it's heavy, and it's a big book. They're big books. So I would say that the first film was great, and it got me into the world. I even watched the David Lynch Dune movie, which, to be honest, I kind of like it. It's cheesy. It's so different in so many ways, but it's fun. Very much not the spirit of Dune. It's like, hey, Star Wars, David Lynch, can you do that with this Dune stuff? He was like, I don't know. No. And then he tried anyway, and, it is what it is. But to get to Dune 2, I was a little bit reticent about some of the stuff at the end of the film that I knew was going to be tough to film and to make sense for general audiences. Now, I say general audiences because the first movie did well enough to greenlight the sequels. And it seems like it became a bigger movie than Denis' last movie, Blade Runner 2049, which many of you know I love. So, Dune did well. I remember the audience, night one of Dune 1 was packed. So, yeah, I would imagine this movie did reach something of a general audience. And it is not that kind of movie at times. And I feel like there are people I've read online, people who missed the subtext entirely, or just text. But what Dune 1 did, Dune 2 also does. I feel like it did a good job with the material. The characters are the characters. They feel generally, some very, very accurate, some a little off for the sake of cinema. But we'll get to the book comparisons in a little bit. To start, the movie's beautiful. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes, and the pacing did not feel slow, because everything that was happening on screen I was invested in. I feel like the editing in Dune 2 was even a little quicker and a little faster paced, more fast paced than the first one. That's good, because for 2 hour, 45 minute runtime, I kind of needed it. In fact, I would even go so far as to say that I would have been fine with another 15 minutes. And not even just as a Dune fan, but like as someone who really loves the world that Denis created. And the characters are just like really fun to watch. Like, I'll give you an example. Javier Bardem, who plays Stilgar, is weirdly the comic relief of the movie without really trying. It's played very straight. And his whole thing about Paul is that he's convinced he's the Messiah. And there are moments where my audience actually laughed out loud just because of his fervor. But the thing is, it gets scarier and scarier. By the end of the movie, Stilgar he fully believes in Paul. You know, not really a spoiler because that's kind of where that's the point of the story. But you get to all these different elements from the book, and of course they're truncated and some are left out. But when you have Denis and his team take on something like Fade Routha and the battle on Getty Prime, Getty Lee. It's the Harkonnen homeworld. They have like a black hole sun, and it saps the color out of the world outside. And so everything's black and white. It's one of the coolest sci-fi sequences I've seen maybe in my life. And I don't say that lightly. The fight itself was amazing. Austin Butler, aka Elvis, was way better than I expected. I was a little worried when they first introduced him. Also, how do you compare to Sting? Well, he did a great job, Sting, that is, in his diaper. But Austin Butler kind of stole the show. He was a little less... He's still a psychopath, but there's more honor on screen with him, and there's a calculating kind of... Even though he's, like, insane, there's a cool, calculating kind of air about him. And he plays it very well, even if he does sound weirdly like Stellan Skarsgård's character. The Baron, who I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of. But yeah, really, that to me is the centerpiece of the film. That and the stuff at the end, of course, but that kind of stuff where they're taking the source material and they're doing their own twist on it is phenomenal. Anything Sandworm related is always great. I thought the performances across the board were good. Good to amazing. Zendaya, I'm not usually a fan of, for some reason, and she was good. Timothée Chalamet had a really hard task. I don't know if he fully accomplished that task. I think he did. I'm gonna have to watch it again. But none of it took me out of the movie, and I think he actually did deliver some fucking phenomenal moments. So I was worried a little bit, no longer worried. And so I enjoyed that performance. Obviously, Stilgar was great. Josh, do I want to mention him? Yeah, sure. He's on the poster. He's on the poster that you're looking at right now. Josh Brolin was great. No real weak performances. You know, there was a part of me though. At one point, I didn't know some of the big actors that they had, and I'm like, oh, that's right. That's that giant actor. Like, you know, Léa Seydoux, that Seydoux from Hideo Kojima fame currently is in the movie, and I didn't really know who it was because you see a character with a certain costume, and I'm like, I didn't really see a lot of movies with her in it. But then you look up later, you're like, oh, this is this massive star. And weirdly, everyone was cast pretty appropriately, if not extremely appropriately. Christopher Walken as the Emperor was weird in some ways, and in other ways it was completely perfect. He delivered a little bit of his Walkenisms, but he mostly was very understated, and I think he made the character work. So that's a weird choice that I think paid off completely. So yeah, performances, casting, all of it, I really enjoyed. And the look of the movie is so good. I didn't see it in IMAX, and sadly the theater I was in, the projector was misaligned. I think I'm saying that right. You could tell by the text at the bottom. It was like blurry, and the screen, I was having a hard time focusing, and then I think it got fixed halfway through. It wasn't terrible, but it was slightly noticeable. So that sucked. I'm gonna have to see it again in a better theater or, you know, Blu-ray, whatever. But it is a beautiful movie. It's a really incredible, like, just feast for your eyes. Like, the practical effects that they use mixed with the CG. The CG is, like, almost so good you don't even consider it CG. You're just like, oh, I'm looking at this giant object. The scale is exactly what Dune needs. The battle scenes, too, or, like, the combat scenes, all handled perfectly, in my opinion. Like, Dune, the characters have shields, so there's guns, there's laser guns, there's like, you know, projectiles, but a lot of the characters fight with like knives and swords, and that stuff was like incredible, even better than the first one. This movie ramps up a lot of what the first Dune did and turns it to like a new level, and it really worked, especially because of the scope of the story. Any of the heady stuff mostly was there. I say mostly because there are some changes, of course, but they show some things that are like utterly fucking bizarre, and they start driving home some of the subtext of like, you know, this is what's going to happen. And when you're reading the book, you get all that from the character's internal monologue. But Villeneuve is really good at letting the context of the pictures she's showing you, the film, the cinema experience, do a lot of that for you. So, but that leads to a couple changes that are a little weird. I'll talk about that in a minute. So, also music and sound, I would say that was even like almost on par, if not better than the visuals. Some of the sounds in that Atmos theater I was at was like, holy shit. So yeah, really, really impressive sound mix. The music was, you know, Hans Zimmer, but even some of the themes from the first film return. There's some new ones. All around, a really great experience, and the movie, to me, did not feel its length. And the world building was done very well. Performances were great. So I gave it like 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Whatever that means. It doesn't mean a whole lot. But truthfully, for me, it's closer to like a 9.5. If I had to put a number on it. It's in that range because it's phenomenal. I mean, I've seen people give this like a 10 out of 10 kind of thing. And it's great. It really does deserve accolade. But, you know, there's a couple things. So, yeah, so I loved it. If you loved Dune 1, go see it. It might be better. And I think it's something that people will enjoy even if they don't know the books. You should know Dune Part 1 before you see this. But even then, I kind of think you could just watch it. Like, say your friends are watching it one night. You could just look at it and be like, holy shit. And then that would inspire you to go see the first one. So yeah, a fantastic movie. I loved it. I had a great time just like living in that world of Dune and like seeing some of the disgusting ways they suck water from people. It's not a euphemism. Watch the movie, you'll see what I mean. Okay, so spoilers. If you want, maybe now's a good time to close the video. I'm going to do some book comparisons and just a couple things that bothered me slightly. Ready? Okay, so they had to change some character stuff. Rebecca Ferguson's character, who she's amazing. She, as Lady Jessica, kind of was more forceful about Paul playing up the Messiah angle. The point of the book is it's a cautionary tale, and her organization, the Bene Gesserit, have planted these stories around the galaxy, the Missionary Protectiva, they call it, of this Messiah that could one day appear. And they do that. They seed these stories so they could use it to their advantage one day. See, we have the Messiah. And they can, that's how they do it. They use manipulation to control. And so in the film, as opposed to the book, Lady Jessica is, Paul's mom, is way more forceful. Not even forceful, but it's mainly her idea. Like, Paul, you need to, like, these people, these Fremen, see you, they see the signs, you have to do this. That's the only way to protect us and to get revenge, or, you know, whatever. So there's that, which I think makes sense because you need that, like, you don't have the internal monologues. Paul is appropriately conflicted up until he drinks the water of life, which is also accurate. But they don't do a time skip. So it's just like a kind of a quick thing. He drinks the water of life, and he's like, I see the path I have to take. And you know, we're going to do this. And then it leads to the ending of the film. So that's, you know, that's fine. Chani, who is Zendaya's character, is Paul's, like, love interest. And essentially what happens is she is the moral compass. She is opposed to this path. she's like not even down for Paul being the Messiah. Like, she knows him better, and she's visibly upset, and she clearly makes it known that she's not really happy with all this stuff. In the book, she's just kind of like, that's fine, this is fine. And like at the end of the movie, Paul requests Lady Irulan's hand in marriage so that there can be like a strategic wedding, you know, like a partnership. And in the book, Chani doesn't like it, but she understands it's the best for the, you know, this outcome needs to happen. In the movie, she feels betrayed, like completely, and that's how it ends. You know, it's weird seeing. I get why they did it, because you need to. Normally, you'd have the book give you that insight into the characters, right? The book would say, okay, Paul is thinking this, he's thinking this, he's thinking this, and he doesn't want to do this, but he has to, but he doesn't want to do it, and he's going to try to do it anyway. Maybe he's going to, oh, he did it. But in the movie, you don't have that, and they're not doing cheesy voiceover like the Lynch film. So they have the characters communicate and speak of their, you know, their intentions, and it kind of serves as Paul's moral compass. Like, here's either his mom or his love. So I thought that was a little weird, but regardless, it worked for the film. And any of the changes that I mentioned, you know, like Count Fenrig or Fenring, whatever, is not there, because the movie's already pretty dense and packed with characters. And but I get why these are decisions that needed to be made, especially because this is such a huge book and you only have like 5 hours to tell this story. I wish there was a, you know, a Space Guild member. I really would love a guild navigator. They're like these fucked up mutated spice creature humans that are like able to pinpoint the locations in the galaxy where they can travel to faster than light. Oh, music? Oh, I heard Mario coin. So it would have been nice to see that Lynch movie throws it at you right away. Lynch was more interested in the grotesque and the weird aspects of Dune in a lot of ways, and I like that. But, you know, this movie doesn't really go into it. It's more of a believable human story. That said, though, Paul's sister, Aaliyah, is part of the film in a weird way. So in the book, she's born, and she's a young kid who has the memories of all these previous, you know, Bene Gesserit Reverend Mothers, right? And she speaks, like, perfectly at a very young age. She actually, spoiler, kills Baron Harkonnen, which, in the movie, Paul does it, which makes more sense to me. I'm actually down for that change. Same for, like, Lord of the Rings movies. I get why Jackson made some of the changes he did. For a movie where it's leading up to that, that's a very rewarding moment for an audience, as opposed to a creepy, weird little girl who is going to do that herself. By the way, she's in the movie. She literally is a fetus. Her presence is felt throughout the whole movie, but towards the end especially, when her mother drinks this weird water of life concoction, she gets all these memories, and she, like, snaps online, and she starts talking to her mother. And there's also a flash forward with Anya Taylor-Joy, who I thought was like, I was like, who is this? Oh my god, is that her real face? You know, I didn't mean to, but I just how I felt at the moment, and I was like, oh, I think I know who that is. It was perfect casting, absolutely perfect. But I hope we see more of her in Dune Messiah, because that's going to be phenomenal if Denis can get that tone correct. But yeah, the movie's really good. Though again, so Aaliyah's not born. Lady Jessica's still pregnant because of the lack of the time skip. And but it still works because you still see and hear and are aware of these elements that are happening. It's just, again, a little bit more condensed, a little simplified, and it still works. There's I didn't feel fully satisfied at the end of the movie, but I felt way more satisfied than I did by the end of Dune 1. The ending is still a bit of a cliffhanger, and obviously Dune Messiah is going to go even further. You know, by the end, Paul is basically like, send them to heaven. You know, he's like, kill all the great houses, kill all the people. And that's the thing. I mean, the Fremen probably would have wanted to do it eventually anyway, if they figured out how to destroy their own spice. It's a lot. It's very dense, like I said. And the movie does a good job at just kind of condensing everything and making it make sense. Paul's reticence to become this messiah figure and what horrible shit could happen makes this a big anti kind of hero story. Not even a... You root for House Atreides because of what happened to them, but they're also... What is happening in this story is fucking horrific. And Dune Messiah explores that even a little bit further. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I do wonder how many people are going to miss the subtext and be like, yeah, Paul's the hero. Hell yeah, great dude. No. And Herbert's books were 100% about the dangers of that kind of shit. And that's, I think, why we kind of need this movie or these movies. Like, it's kind of nice to have that being portrayed in these big budget films as opposed to just like superhero wins the day. It's like, no, this is a little more complex. This makes you think a little bit more about the dangers of this shit. And it's done beautifully by a skilled director who knows how to tell a story. And you know what? Not overly wordy. It is in some spots, but a lot of it is just the visual storytelling gives you all the clues you need, and you just figure a lot of shit out, and it's great. Images that will stick with me for a while. So, one more thing is the Emperor says the reason he killed Paul Atreides' dad, I'm blanking on the name for a second here, Duke Leto, is because he was weak. Because he was unable to make some big decisions. He was too honorable. But in the book, he is a threat because he's so charismatic. He's likable. He's a decent man that the Emperor is more worried about Duke Leto usurping him. So I don't really love that the motivation of the Emperor was not explained or was changed or was shortened. I do feel like Christopher Walken as Emperor Shaddam could probably have explained it. Like, your father, he's too charismatic, he's too likable, too honorable. This guy could have been king. I don't want that. Maybe there's a better way to say that. I don't know. So that was another, like, minor annoyance. But all of this aside, I've already rambled long enough because I do really love these books and I love these films. Dune Part 2 is worthy of your attention. And same for the first. And I love it. And I'm so happy I saw it in the theater that had a misaligned projector. I'm not. But I will go see it again at some point, and I know I'll like it even more maybe, or just as much. And that's rare. So, but same thing happened with Blade Runner 2049. So anyway, let's hope Dune Messiah gets made. Let's hope it's nearly as good as these two films, but especially this one, because if so, then we'll have a trilogy that may rival some of the best trilogies, in my opinion, like for like fantasy kind of stuff. All right, thanks everybody. What did you think? Did you like it? You can leave a comment if you want. I don't know. There's whatever. Bye.